Fellow members of NAMBLA, as you know, we continue to be discriminated against. Recently, the FBI has started to arrest men who are doing nothing more than trying to start a sexual relationship with a young boy. Aww. And now that all ethnic groups, homosexuals, and women's are protected under civil rights laws, we want the same! Yeah. What we need is proof that young boys want to be members of NAMBLA, that they want love from us. We need a poster child.
Okay, so here we are on NAMBLA.org. That's the North American Man-Boy Love Association's website, a nonprofit that promotes its culture, defending the right, they believe, of men to love boys, or what we would call in the normal world, pedophilia. Alright, so here we are on NAMBLA's Who We Are page, where they talk about why they are so oppressed and no one understands their want and desire and right to touch children. And they blame all that on ageism. So if you believe that they don't have the right to touch children, then you are an ageist. And they explain that in there. I'm not going to read this. You can go to the website and read all this bull crap yourself, what they feel about ageism and how they plan to take advantage of young children and change the age of consent. You do that yourself. Research, people. Alright, so on the NAMBLA website is like a weird portal to everything pedo, everything defending and promoting pedo culture, from history to inspirational links, historical figures, to poetic links and literature and movies, even a weird grooming comic book. But nothing that would have you touch kids, right? Let's hear from the late founder, Tom Reeves, a Boston historian and professor who taught at Roxbury Community College, while alongside one of his former victims. Okay, no, wait, I psyched y'all out. Before you hear from Tom Reeves and his victim, let me tell you a little bit about Tom Reeves. He was a retired professor at Boston's Roxbury Community College. He died in Baltimore Sunday, February 19, 2012, of heart failure. Obviously, he campaigned for the liberties of people and tried to reform sex laws. He worked at, historically black college. He did some work around Haiti, which is interesting because maybe that connects him to Hillary Clinton. Whoop. All right, and I know you don't want to hear this, but you're going to have to hear this. He also did work with Martin Luther King. In the 70s in Boston, he was arrested for statutory rape of 2 people in a Boston public library restroom. He was significant and founded a number of organizations in Boston, which I'm not going to mention. You'll have to read through that. But one of them that is very significant is ACT UP. And that's significant because Kevin Jennings was a big supporter and member of ACT UP. And you'll see he's connected to Obama and the Democrats in a very significant way.
I felt that sex was good, and I still love it. Tom is not the first man I went out with. Today I'm bisexual, but I identify as gay, and I'm happy about it. My girlfriend, some of my straight friends, went last Sunday to Gay Pride in Baltimore, along with several of my past and present lovers, including Tom.
I'm Tom Reeves. I teach history. I'm 55. My first lover was 14, and I was then 23.
All right, so I gotta admit, Tom's victim did not look so traumatized, right? So maybe we have the wrong idea. Maybe pedophilia isn't so dangerous for children. I mean, it's just an identity, right? Maybe enabling this kind of idea is not going to be so bad for society. Oh, but on the main website, when you scroll down, what do you see? Oh, there was a lawsuit against NAMBLA members withdrawn. Okay, it was withdrawn, but there was a lawsuit against NAMBLA. Oh, I wonder what that lawsuit was about. Let's click on that and see what that said. All right, let me be serious for this one. Condolences to the Curley family. So I'm not going to read this whole thing, and you can't see it, but I'll give you the basics. This is a press release from NAMBLA, and they are basically celebrating that the case that was filed was withdrawn, and the case was from the Curley family, the family of a 10-year-old boy who ended up missing, and one of the murderers just happened to be in contact through email with NAMBLA.
Jeffrey Curley was just 10 years old when he was killed. not by strangers, but by men he thought were his friends. Two men who wanted sex from him for the promise of a new bike.
He thought they were his friends, and they were targeting him.
They want your kids. And the age of preference for NAMBLA is 6 to 12.
The more details the Curleys learned about NAMBLA, the more they realized they had to do something to prevent this type of tragedy from happening to other little boys in the future.
NAMBLA's a group of perverts that tries to legitimize raping and sodomizing little boys, and they try to hide behind the First Amendment.
They're hiding behind the First Amendment. Ostensibly, they claim that they are designed to abolish age of consent laws. I was in the organization for 3 years. I had attended 2 of their national conferences. I spoke with many of their members. I corresponded with about 175 of their members. At no time during my 3-year infiltration was there ever any discussion about modifying age of consent laws, abolishing age of consent laws. Every conversation that I had was about where to go to have sex with little boys, how they could attract little boys, how they could groom little boys. That was their agenda.
All right,
Good evening. Freedom of speech, expression, constitutional guarantees that have long protected the views and ideas of even the most controversial groups. But many are now asking, where do you draw the line? Where does free speech end and responsibility begin?
Robert and Barbara Curley are fighting to answer that question. The Massachusetts couple is suing the North American Man-Boy Love Association, an organization that openly defends what it calls intergenerational sex.
When Jeffrey Curley found out what these men were after, he said no, and he struggled, and that's why they killed him.
And who is defending NAMBLA? The ACLU.
This would obviously be titillating to a pedophile. A pedophile might feel encouraged by them, but it is not the same thing as saying to somebody, go out and attack that boy. There is room in this country for people who believe that man-boy love is okay.
Now, we've been telling you all week about the controversy surrounding President Obama's safe school czar, Kevin Jennings. Tonight, we have new information on that story involving Jennings and his professed admiration for a supporter of the North American Man-Boy Love Association. Now, Jennings is on record having praised Harry Hay, an outspoken supporter of NAMBLA, and not surprisingly, of sexual relationships between young boys and older men.
I mean, I've said before that I think Kevin Jennings has got to be the poster boy for NAMBLA, but to understand that he has also endorsed Harry Hay and at least referenced his association with him, that tells you that at least they support him and his lifetime agenda. As now he's supposed to be the safe schools and drug-free schools czar. 4 books that he's authored himself, and every one of them deal with homosexuality and focus on homosexuality within the schools. He's got a very narrow approach to this, and I think that the president, whether they've actually vetted them or not, I think that the fellow travelers part of this thing is the vetting process. The people who advise the president have these kind of associations, and so that's what we've seen happen, Sean.
I'm more libertarian in terms of what people's preferences are, what adults do in the privacy of their bedroom. That's my position. I've been very clear over the years about this. But here's my problem, and this all got started because Jennings himself admitted that it was a 15-year-old boy that came to him for counseling, and because the boy was having sex with an older male.
The Massachusetts school teacher, Kevin Jennings, was approached by a boy believed to be 15 or 16 who told Mr. Jennings that he was seeking out adult male sexual partners in a bus station restroom.
People in certain professions, including teachers, suspect a child of being abused in any way, physically or sexually. They are required by law to report that abuse to the authorities.
What was Kevin Jennings' advice to his pupil? Jennings failed to report this incident to authorities, ignoring not only mandatory reporting policies, but also basic common sense that any parent would want their child's teacher to grasp.
And looking at that situation, it kind of sounds like his own personal preferences and his own personal agenda kind of overshadowed his duty as a professional to report that.
I have 53 members of Congress and thousands of parents called for his immediate removal as the Safe School Czar.
Ask President Obama to fire Kevin Jennings, to dismiss him, because he's not suitable for the task of being the safe and drug-free schools czar.
Kevin Jennings has an extensive record of unrenounced, radical homosexual activism, as well as professional neglect as a teacher.
Spectrum of the job that entails, and that is the safety for all the kids and drug-free for all the kids. His drug record is self-alleged self-abuse of drugs. And so there's nothing to offer there except a cavalier attitude about drugs. And the safety of the kids that don't self-profess to be homosexual aren't addressed in any way.
Kevin Jennings' homosexual partner, Jeff Davis, identifies Jennings as having been a member of ACT UP.
He was a member of ACT UP. So it's like, you know, he was a big gay activist.
A radical, highly controversial group, well known for desecrating St. Patrick's Cathedral. Recently, Kevin Jennings helped fund an ACT UP exhibit at Harvard University. The exhibit included video pornography and photos of genitalia and stories of cross-dressing and child pornography. As more is learned about Kevin Jennings, it's clear he has neither the temperament nor the ethical standards needed to oversee the safety of our children.
The people who advise the president have these kind of associations, and so that's what we've seen happen, Sean.
I haven't focused so much. I'm more libertarian in terms of what people's preferences are, what adults do in the privacy of their bedroom. That's my position. I've been very clear over the years about this. But here's my problem, and this